Hi, it's Mike DelSignore. I was just reading a article in one of the papers about an OUI drugs charge from Hyannis. I'm not going to mention the person's name. I don't want to um, have them flagged or have it affect their livelihood. But I wanted to say this, that it looked like a weak case. There was an accident, and it was alleged OUI drugs. So in an OUI drug case, often there is an accident, but it's hard to prove somebody's under the influence of a particular drug. In other words, without an admission, without evidence of drug use, it's probably going to be a difficult case on to prove. And these are cases that sometimes the DAs are willing to negotiate on. So in a typical OUI case, often the prosecutor is not going to agree to a reduction. In an OUI drugs charge, and in that county, in particular, this person had their case, I've had a lot of success where I've been able to convince them to do a plea on a negligent driving charge. So the OUI drugs may not actually have to go to trial. If it does, it's generally, as I said, a tough case to prove. If without a DRE, without an admission, without evidence of drug paraphernalia or evidence of drugs in the car, it's difficult to prove what level of drug use someone's had and how it affects their system. Now, the more serious cases, the cases that can be easier for the government to prove, all these OUI drugs are hard to prove, but the fentanyl, the heroin overdose cases, sometimes it's just the sheer risk of death to the person that can make some judges a little weary about finding somebody not guilty. It's certainly a case I wouldn't present from a jury. I think juries probably would convict more people of OUI drugs because they're not as trained in the law, and juries will tend to make more assumptions than a judge would. So if you have an OUI drugs charge, feel free to give me a call. I understand these types of cases very well. I worked on a case that held that field sobriety tests can't be used for cases involving OUI marijuana. So if you're charged with OUI drugs, whether marijuana, fentanyl, pills, keep in mind the legal burden is beyond a reasonable doubt. It's not enough just to say it looked like something is wrong. And the government has to prove that you were under the influence of a narcotic, a depressant, or a stimulant. So it's just not any substance. It could just be a medical issue. And a medical issue might get you taken off the road, might require you to go in front of the registry for an immediate threat suspension. And most OUI drugs do involve some registry hearings. But you can win this charge. Feel free to reach out.